Good morning. It is a new year, 2023. This is the Dadnarok AfterShow. This is Shaun.
And it's Chris.
And we're here to catch you up on everything that, that we missed talking about, I guess, over the last, 2-3 weeks? Something
Yeah, I
like
think
that.
when we took about 2 weeks off, but I think it equated to 3
It
just
felt like
because
2
of the
months, honestly.
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. But yeah, we saw some movies. Well, Chris mainly saw movies. I did a little bit of streaming, but we're here to talk a little bit about that. There's the premiere of The Bad Batch this week
Star
on Disney
Wars.
Plus. Yeah, so anything Star Wars, we'll talk about. But if you don't know, we're Dadnarok. We get on here at least once a week to discuss all the latest and greatest in TV and streaming and movies, anything that's kind of out there in pop culture. And then we do trailer reactions too. So if there's a big trailer that drops, we're probably going to do a reaction to it. If not same day, then pretty soon after it releases.
Yeah. I've been doing
Um,
a lot of quick movie reviews lately on YouTube Shorts as well. So
yeah,
like if I watched a movie like what we talk about, I just watched Prey not that long ago. I did like a 20-second review real quick on YouTube Shorts, telling you guys to check us out here. So we'll dig in all in. So keep an eye on our YouTube Shorts as well. That's been kind of fun doing. So we'll see.
what did you watch over the holiday?
Oh, dude, I watched you name it. I watched it. I don't know what got into me because typically it's hard to find time to watch, movies and shows because family happens.
Hmm.
But last night, for instance, me and my wife sat down and watched a Glass Onion, Lives Out mystery.
Oh yeah, cool.
That
How was
was
that?
fantastic. That
Had you
was
seen Knives Out?
I didn't. We were going to go ahead and watch that one first. But I
Yeah,
heard there was really you didn't have to see one and enjoy the other.
right.
You would appreciate some maybe Easter eggs
Yeah.
between the two, but it wasn't like a prerequisite to watch it.
Okay. So it's
Oh,
good.
it was great. I mean, we were sitting down watching it. I mean, seeing all the characters and everything in it, trying to figure out who killed who and what's going on. Me and my wife were like trying to solve this mystery while we were watching it,
Yeah.
and we were pretty much all wrong. We were both wrong. We were changing our theories as the movie was going. So we were talking during the movie.
Uh huh.
And if you picked up your phone for a second, like I picked it up for a second and I put it back down. My wife said, did you catch that? Did you see what just happened? I was like, no, what I miss? So it was one of those movies you had to watch
Yeah.
intently, but it was extremely enjoyable. I mean,
Oh,
it was
good.
so much fun. I've been wanting to watch it since it's come out because I've heard so many great things about it. It did really well, like on their Netflix. Put it in the theaters for like a couple weeks,
Right. They
and
do
it
that.
did well there. It's kind of one of those experimental things. I mean, granted, it had already the Knives Out success on it already,
Yeah.
but that was fun. And we were going to go ahead and try to watch the first one, and it was supposed to be on Netflix, but apparently Netflix removed it for some reason. So you'd have to watch this one first, or go to the theater to see this one, or try to
Mm-hmm.
boost their numbers. So we
Right.
weren't willing to rent the first one, not knowing if we would truly enjoy it. Now it's a must. We're going to go back and watch it now
Yeah.
that we enjoyed this one so much.
Yeah, I heard Knives Out was really good, and I mean, it's not typical for direct sequel. Well, not even a direct sequel. It is a sequel. It's got the same character, at least one character I
Yeah,
know
one
for
character.
sure.
It's Barb
Daniel
Blanc, the
Craig's
actual
character.
detective.
Yeah. But for a sequel to get as much praise and adoration as the first one, that's good.
I'm
Old
curious
Ryan Johnson, he's got a good franchise on his hands. He really crapped the bed with Star Wars, but he's doing well with.
with Knives Out. I'm curious how it stacks up to the first one. Is it better than the first one? Or is the first one still better than the second one? You know what I mean? I don't have
Right.
that ability to judge it to. I just know how much fun it was seeing Dave Batista as this big like bulk, you started a Twitch streamer who was
Uh,
just ridiculous. His character was
yeah.
just ridiculous, live at the top.
That's funny. Well, that's a big hit on Netflix. Also, a big hit on Netflix premiered back in November. You and I didn't really talk about it at that time. You had watched it before me, and then I kind of binge watched it over, I don't know, like 3 days or so. But Wednesday on Netflix.
Yeah,
Uh,
that one was fun. Like
yeah,
I I I knew about it, but it's one of those shows, when you're sitting in the living room and you're trying to convince your wife, you want to try to watch something different, or do you want to watch the you want to try something new? And I kind of showed her to the trailer. She's like, my wife was wishy-washy on it. I was like, well, did
right.
you enjoy Adam's Family when you were growing up?
Yeah,
She was like, yeah, we kind of did. I mean, it wasn't one of our go-tos, but it wasn't something that was bad. I was like, then let's just throw this on, and it hooked us. I'm not a binge watcher,
Right.
and like you just said, we watched it in 3 days,
Yeah.
and like we probably would have watched it all the way through if it wasn't a work night.
Yeah.
So that was fun, and it just got picked up for season 2. Do you see that?
I did see that. There was a question there whether or not Netflix, because Netflix is so shaky right now as far as what they're going to bring back, what they put the axe on. I can't imagine. Wednesday was apparently like the most watched thing on Netflix. Like even was beating out Stranger Things season 4, I think,
Yeah, and it
or
went for
getting right
like
up there.
4 weeks straight as being the number one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was ever a debate if they were going to get a season 2. It was where was season 2 going to be?
Right. I think there was even talks that like Amazon
I
was
think
looking to pick
Amazon
up
owns the
season 2.
rights to it. So
Mm,
they went ahead and we don't know what the negotiations took place behind the scenes,
right.
but Amazon went ahead and let Netflix go ahead and do season 2, which who knows what the royalties are behind that. You know what I mean?
What's funny is, like, a couple of very similar franchises, The Munsters and The Addams Family, back in the old days, in the black and white TV days, they actually aired, at the same time. They were airing new episodes in, like, the same couple of years, and, like, very similar. They've always been kinda neck and neck. And then in the '90s, uh, Christina Ricci, Raul Julia, Christopher Lloyd, those movies, like, were huge. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Maybe the aesthetic was, like, it was kind of that Tim Burton aesthetic back then, but even though Tim Burton wasn't involved, maybe that's why it was so huge, because that, like, kind of, dark, spooky aesthetic was kinda in at that point. But, like, you remember it when we were kids, like, in the early '90s, Addams Family, like, the MC Hammer video, and, like, it was
Yeah.
big.
Oh, I just picture, Christina Ricci walking down that dock at the
Yeah,
summer camp they were at. That's just when I think of Adams Family, that's what I think.
right.
Not the mansion, not the snap, just that. But let's talk about Christina Ricci for a second. I was like, I knew she was in it, but she was so good in the character. I didn't even realize what character she was until we were like the last 2 episodes. When she
Yeah,
was that teacher, that botany teacher,
right.
it didn't dawn on me.
You didn't
I'm
know that was
like,
Christina Ricci?
I no, I didn't. I didn't realize it.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
watching it and I'm enjoying the character, I'm enjoying the show.
Yeah,
And then I'm like, then I really started intently looking for it. It's like, where is she in the show? I'm like, what's going on here? Why am I not noticing? And I'm like, oh crap, there she is. She's like right in front of my face the whole time, which I think speaks well to the character, how it was written and how she played the character.
yeah.
Because I forgot that was her.
Yeah, maybe just hadn't seen her in a while, I don't
I
know.
mean,
I
that could
mean,
be a part of it as well.
yeah.
But I thought it was really well done. I was shocked.
Yeah, she was good in it too. That was nice for her to be in it, like, not only as just, like, a throwaway gag, like, she was pretty vital to that season, and she's still around, like, I would assume she's probably gonna be in season 2 also.
Yeah, I would think so in some manner, yeah, because she didn't die at the end of that season. So
Right.
we'll see exactly how that goes forward. But I loved all the like little nods,
I
like
thought,
the
Jenna Ortega as Wednesday, she was really good too.
oh, she smashed it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, when she was up on the balcony playing the cello, was it the cello?
Yeah.
And she was going real fast, and everyone heard, and everyone stopped and was listening. I
Mhm.
thought that was fantastic. Or just her roommate, how they
Yeah.
played off each other, how they were completely 2 different characters. One was dark, one was over the top, like
Right.
frou-frou-ish and
Yeah.
like a cheerleader wise. And it was that dynamic was fun. And just seeing how she was breaking down Wednesday to be more and more social.
You know what I just thought about too, which is kind of weird. Before the break, you and I were covering Willow, and one of our complaints was that it felt very CW, like very like young adult novel, like just something that we couldn't really get into. Maybe it was meant for a younger audience, whatever. But like Wednesday can kind of be described that way too. I mean, it takes place at this Nevermore Academy. All the actors are, people in their
Or
early
younger,
20s,
yeah.
and that it's very much kind of directed at that same audience. But I had no issue with getting into this story with
It's
these
all writing.
characters. Yeah.
It's all writing, it's all pace, it's all of that combined. And it didn't take long to get you into the story.
Hmm.
Like with Wednesday, she's pulling Pugsley out of a locker.
Right. Yeah. Poor
And then she
Pugsley.
touches them and she has this like flashback type thing that's going on. So
Yeah.
immediately, like there's something else going on that we don't know of. And then she chases down this water polo team and drops piranhas in the pool.
Right.
And I'm assuming it didn't show, but it went after dude's junk. But
Yeah,
that I mean that whole, and like I said, right from the get go, it's fun.
right.
You know the tone of the show immediately. With Willow, it just took forever to get started.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, I even went ahead and I tried to watch an episode since we stopped covering it, and the dialogue, I had to shut it off. I just couldn't. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I pushed this aside. I haven't continued watching the show since, and I've been watching other stuff.
Yeah, just, our feelings on that kinda wrapped up. I haven't watched a single episode of Willow since we were talking about it, so I've probably missed, like, a good 2 or 3 episodes, whatever they whatever the number was to finish out that
I'm
season.
lost with the number of episodes
Yeah,
they are, but yeah, Wednesday is fantastic. I was pumped to hear that they went ahead and they renewed it for season 2. Because, like you said, Netflix is sketchy. You never know what you're getting from Netflix.
yeah. Yeah, and Tim Burton doing it just feels like a no-brainer. I mean, like, it almost feels like hasn't Tim Burton been doing Addams Family the entire time? But no, he's like this is his first foray into this thing, and it feels like the Addams Family and the old cartoon and stuff by Charles Addams was almost like Tim Burton-esque before Tim
Oh,
Burton was around.
it's got his feelings all around it. It's
Yeah,
his aesthetic 100%.
yeah, it had to be a big influence on him and just growing up as a creative as a kid.
Oh, absolutely. You look at
Um,
all his stuff. Look at Edward Scissorhands.
yeah,
So I mean, that right there, you can draw the
right.
comparisons.
Yeah, so, I mean, Wednesday, I'd imagine it's, had a ton of people watching it, but if you're in our age bracket and it was kinda off your radar, it's very fun.
We were a little young for a lot of the Adams Family thing. Even in the 90s, we were still a
Yeah,
little young for that, aspect of it.
right.
We were
Um
younger, not even a twinkle in an eye yet.
Yeah, the cartoons came out in the '60s, I think. They were subversive back then, man. Sometimes, like, with the resurgence of the popularity of the show and people are, like, looking into Addams Family stuff again, um, Charles Adams, the actual creator, he did, these comic strips and these little kind of one-shot cartoon strips and paper strips back in the '60s, and it had that same dark humor. Like, there was one shot of, like, Christmas carolers singing, and, the Addams Family were on top. They were about to, like, drop, like, a, boiling pitch down from their high tower and their house down onto the merry carolers below, and just, like, a lot of dark humor. Like, this the same kind of humor that you see in Wednesday and you saw in the '90s movies. They even had back then in the old cartoon back in the '60s. So and you had to be like, back in the '60s, you'd feel like maybe things wouldn't be that subversive and dark and like dark humor and stuff, but I think they were like one of the originators of like what we consider dark humor.
Yeah. The one negative thing I've heard about the show, and there have been so few, is in the originals, Gomez would have been proud to be accused of murder.
Right.
In this show here, he was trying to prove that he didn't, actually commit this murder.
Yeah.
So that was the one difference I think between the originals and this one here.
Yeah, that's a weird dynamic because it's like even when um it's because the Adams Family aren't evil, you know what I mean? They're kooky and spooky.
They're
Um
heavily goth.
Yeah, but they're not, like, openly just, like, murdering people and being like, "Haha, isn't that great?"
Yeah.
It's a weird line that they draw.
They
Um,
like torturing each other. They've got a weird threshold for pain.
right, but they don't torture their neighbors, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it's all family
yeah, they
abuse.
keep it in the family, they keep
I
it in the
keep it in the
family.
family. That
Um,
I love that one. So if you guys haven't, I mean, go ahead and look that one up. It doesn't matter if you're late to the party. I've been late to a party to the few shows we're gonna be talking about today. But enjoy that one.
yeah, and then, let's see, as far as, like, streaming stuff, I did wanna mention, I know you haven't watched any of this, but probably the biggest show on TV right now is Yellowstone.
I,
Like, you
I
can't get away from people talking about
I
Yellowstone.
don't understand it.
Well, have you even watched
I
any of it?
haven't watched, and I'll say that. I will say this
I
here.
don't understand people in cowboy
No,
hats. I don't get it.
I'm not a Western person.
You're not at all.
I don't like Westerns at all. I
Yeah.
mean, grant, okay, I love Star Wars. Understand Star Wars is a space Western, opera, the whole deal. But I just don't, there's no draw to me to watch that. Now, my in-laws love it. They're watching it, but
Yeah.
they're also 60 years old. So Westerns is something my father-in-law grew up with. He loves all that. Uh, I may say something here that's going to be terrible. Harrison Ford's not a draw to me. If he's outside of Star Wars, he's not a draw to me. Like, I won't watch a show because he's in it. And I'm
Mhm.
hearing him and Helen Mirren aren't really even really in it. It's more of a bait and switch. I was like, there's so little of them in this that.
Mm.
So I mean,
Uh,
I never watched Yellowstone either.
they're pretty prevalent in the first, 3 episodes or so, but it's not they're not like the main characters, but they are pretty prevalent.
Okay, so they're
Uh
in it more than what's his name is Sam Neill is in Invasion.
Oh god, yeah. That's not a high bar, though. Um, on the other hand, I love the Western genre. I've always loved it. I mean, even since I think my original I wouldn't say always loved it, but back in the when did 310 to Yuma come out? That was like the early 2000s. Christian Bale, Russell Crowe. I went to go see that in the theater and I was hooked from there. I went back and I've seen I got a whole library of westerns in my voodoo collection. So it's not necessarily the Yellowstone I actually did try to check out because I like Kevin Costner as an actor. I think he's a draw, and I like him in that, kind of the westerns that he's been in, like Dances with Wolves and such. And I did watch the first couple episodes, I think, of Yellowstone, and then, I don't know, something else happened, and, we don't have tons of time to watch TV. And then before I knew it, like, it was the most popular show on TV after, like, season 3, season 4, it's still on, which is a plus.
Yeah.
Because when you're first watching a show, you just never know these days, like, what's gonna stick, and it's like, well, let me be, like, really heavily into the show, and then, they cancel it after a first season, then it's like
With
feels
that
like a
show
waste.
there, I've heard it's hard to find. Like, part of it's on Paramount, part of it's on
Yeah.
Peacock. It's just kind of scattered all over the place. Now, that's not one like I said, I haven't checked it out either, but I've heard a few people say, once they figure out where the whole show's gonna be,
Yeah.
that's when I'll go ahead and binge watch it or whatever, because 'cause it'll make it easier to do so. But if you have your show broken up amongst different platforms, that's gonna make it difficult.
What I did watch about 6 months ago, they released a spin-off of Yellowstone, which was a prequel that actually takes place back in the Old West, like, during the Oregon Trail days, called 1883, and it's basically how this Dutton family, Kevin Costner's family, got and established their land in Montana, like, how they got to that point. Like, they were on this wagon trail from, like, Texas all the way up to, Montana, and just the trail. It was basically like the Oregon Trail, the show. Like, you and I played those
Yeah,
games.
yeah, yeah.
Your wagon sink in the river. Your livestock dies. People get dysentery and die. Like,
Yeah.
it was like that over a season of television. As far as like that's the premise, but you also got into like really cool character stuff. I loved 1883, and unfortunately, it was just kind of like a one shot. Like here's a season of television to like show a snapshot of this Dutton family way back when. And that's kind of what they're doing here with this 1923. It's a couple generations after 1883, a few generations before the current families, taking place during like the Prohibition era, like 1923.
Yeah.
Things are still rough. It's still the Wild West is still holding on, especially in the West. Like, even though not by 1923 stuff was pretty, you got trains rolling, you got New York City, and the big cities are fairly established. This is the time of like the gangsters and stuff in Chicago. But like out in the West and the rural areas, like you could still like pretty much hang people and get away with it. Like it was a weird like dividing line where stuff like old stuff was still hanging on. And I love the era. I love Harrison Ford in it. Helen Mirren is good, and I like the other characters that they've introduced. A new
How long do
episode
you think
just
they can
premiered
run this
today.
show? If they've done one 1823, now they're doing, was it 1923? Then they did I mean, was Yellowstone connected to that? Or were they two different shows?
1883 and 1923, they're Yellowstone spin-offs. So it takes
Okay,
it
so
it takes place it's the same Dutton family, just different
okay,
generations.
so it's the same world. Like,
Mhm.
do you think at the end of 1823 they're gonna jump another, oh no, in 1923 are they gonna jump another 20 years? Or are they gonna run?
I
Or
think
is this
this
like
is
a
a
free
limited thing. I think the Tyler Sheridan, the creator of this world, probably had other story ideas in his head and during other time frames, and probably he's a good writer. He's like Yellowstone as a show is popular for a reason. Like it is good. I know
Oh,
Western's not
I
your
don't doubt
genre,
that one bit. Yeah.
but, like, he's a good writer, and he's created good characters, and even though I haven't watched Yellowstone proper, the show that this other stuff is based on, the one-shots basically think of it as, like, in comic book terms, like a one-shot. These one-shots that 1883 and 1923, I've loved so far. We're only about halfway through 1923, I think. It premieres on Paramount Plus every Sunday,
Are
new
they giving you a
episodes through.
proper season? Are they giving you like 15 episodes, or are they giving you
Yeah,
like 9?
I think it's I think it's like 10 or 11 episodes. Yeah, it feels full. It feels like a full story.
Okay, so they're telling you a story rather than a 30-minute Boba Fett episode.
Oh, no, yeah, it's an hour-long drama for sure, and because it's streaming, sometimes it's one of those ones where sometimes it's 50 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and 10 minutes, just depending on what story they wanna tell that
Do you like
episode.
that or not? I'm not sure if I like how episodes like that can fluctuate that big.
Um, the only reason I would mind it is when you and I have to fit stuff in and talk about it. You know what I mean? If it's
Well,
something that I have to, like, fit in my schedule and be like, "Okay, I gotta hurry up and watch this because you and I are talking about it," I'd rather sit for 45 minutes and watch an episode than like, "Oh gosh, this is too long." But if I'm casually just, like, watching something to watch something, that's something I don't even notice usually.
really? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. Because the first one that came to mind was Peripheral, where those episode lengths were all over the map. You
right.
had one that maybe 40 minutes and one that was 115 minutes.
Mhm.
So it would, and it kind of, I don't know if it bugged me was the right way to put it, but sometimes it just felt like the extra wasn't always necessary. And I don't know if that's something that's felt in other shows that are the actual times fluctuate, like you're saying, 1923 does a little bit.
That does Peripheral did bug me, but that's because I had to usually cram them before we hopped on here.
Well, that says
So,
a lot about the show.
yeah. So yeah, so that's my one recommendation that I saw and you didn't, is 1923, so you should check that out, especially if you like the genre.
But there is a
Um
show that I watched that you've already seen,
oh, really?
and it was Prey.
Oh, yeah, Prey, yep.
So I got Hulu a little while back. I went ahead and canceled my Spectrum service, picked up some of the streaming services and everything, and it's been one that's been on my radar. And my son's 9. I'm like, you know what? It's time. I'll be holding Simba. It is time.
Yeah,
So I said him, I was like, dude, you know what? Let's watch a movie. He's like, what are we gonna watch? I said, it's called Prey. He said, really? Okay. So I sat him down, and my wife had no idea. And I hit play, and it said, for mature audiences. I'm like, is this a good idea? I'm like, screw it, let's go.
right.
So we're sitting down here watching, and I'm like, buddy, what do you think? And it starts. I liked how it started, but for a 9-year
For a
old,
kid, yeah,
it's a little slow how it starts.
sure, yeah.
So he's sitting there and he's kind of enjoying it a little bit. I can tell he's not sure.
Mhm.
But then he sees like there's the sky, all of a sudden like, you see the predator coming in the
The
ship.
Thunderbird,
Yeah,
yeah.
you see all of that, and you kind of see him land in his cloak and everything going on. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome.
I love that you saw him little by little, like, they didn't give you all of him. They were only gave
Yes.
every scene was just a progression of how much you see of him. That was
Oh,
cool.
and when his cloak came fully down, Zach was like, oh, I mean, he was, and the funniest thing amongst the whole movie, because I even put it up in my quick review, is he was so concerned about her dog the whole movie.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
was thinking, man, that's John Wick style.
yep,
I thought the dog wasn't gonna make it. I didn't know. I mean, I thought for sure the dog was gonna die, and it was gonna be something that would push her over the edge and give her that extra oomph to
right.
be able to take care of what she needed to take care of.
Yeah,
But seeing the dog at the end was fantastic. I bought the storyline. I like the storyline. The
yeah,
idea, because they set it up from the very beginning, where that one hunter got hurt by the big cat, the lion,
yeah,
and she gave him that herb that lowered his body temperature.
right.
That using that callback from the beginning to the end,
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. I thought that was so much fun.
I thought it was super cool. Right, dude, look, I was sold on this right from the premise. When I heard that this was something that was being made, if you take the Predator premise and instead of being in a jungle full of, like, muscleheads like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers and, Jesse the Body Ventura, you take it back in time to where people and put them against people that did live off the land, like, that's what they did, to survive. Every day they were surviving, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, every day there was a threat, where there was a giant grizzly or wolves or like whatever, like they had to be on on their toes at all times. And some people throw stink at like the main protagonist being a woman or whatever. Like I thought that just added to like
Yeah,
just the
but
story dynamics and
she was trying to
her being an
prove that she can
underdog.
be a hunter.
Right.
I loved all that. She was trying to prove herself to her brother.
Yeah.
That once again, the family dynamic. That was what I
Re-
liked about, the Peripheral, was the family dynamic. This here, the
right.
family dynamic between mom, brother, and sister. That whole thing made that movie work. If you remove that from the movie, I don't think it worked as well.
Oh, I agree. Like, if the protagonist in this one was her brother or some, like, 6'4" dude who, like, we had no doubt could, like, save the come in and be that, like, but because of her stature, because they even made the predator taller than he normally is. Like, this is a big
It is a
predator.
big dude, yeah.
Big scary predator, and, yeah, I just loved the fight scenes, and the fight scenes were done in a believable way, 'cause when you think of that matchup, okay, so we've got somebody without technology, and it's a woman, and she's younger, and she's smaller in stature, versus the friggin' predator, who's this space, 7-foot space alien with all the technology in the world. Like, on paper, that reads like, "Okay, well, yeah, whatever," but it's like how they were able to make each fight believable. Like, it never fades you. You're like, okay, I see what she's doing here, and she's using the world around her, her
Yeah.
environment, the things she's used to. And I liked the design of the predator himself. Like, you could
Yes.
tell that this predator was a predator from a couple hundred years before the predator that we know in
The skull
1987.
like mask he was wearing,
Yeah,
that was awesome looking.
yeah,
I love the shield that he would bring out.
yeah,
The one of the biggest oh my gods got from Zach was when the dude was up against a tree and he brought the shield out, sliced the dude's head off and cut the tree. I
yeah.
heard a cheer out of Zach that I haven't heard before in a while. So I'm like, this is awesome. He's sitting there and he's like, he's having so much fun with this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm smiling with him because I'm having fun with it. And I'm able to experience a movie like this now, finally, that I feel okay with watching with Zach. I'm like, dude, know how much more fun this would have been if we'd seen this in the theater?
I was just gonna say that. My one regret is that with that movie is that they didn't put it, and I think they regret it too. I think it
I
was
think it was a week or a weekend like release in select theaters. Like I think like LA got it, I think New York got it, but it was like only for like a week's period of time. If I remember right, Campia went to the theater and seen it.
right.
And it wasn't like a specific like invite. So it wasn't like he was special anyway to go ahead and see it. But I think it was one of those very, very limited things.
Yeah. But it was a Hulu release. It's still on Hulu. If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you're a fan of the Predator franchise, or even if not, even if you're just looking for a pretty cool story, with protagonist versus antagonist and how that story plays out, I think you should definitely check it out. Prey was really, really good.
And it looked like, I mean, I could be wrong, but it looked like almost all that movie was shot on scene, on location.
Yeah, there was a lot of it. I'm sure there was CG touch up with some stuff, but yeah, there
I
was
mean, you would
it.
have to have because we were talking about the Predator. But
Yeah.
I mean, like when you're actually out and when she falls in that mud,
Hmm.
it's like it feels like she's actually on location for a lot of those, which it makes a big difference. Yeah, the volume did its job.
Right.
It was able to have us have a show, movie, things like that going forward. But you can see the difference between the volume and actually on location.
It only takes a couple of shows for the volume to where you feel the way between Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. It kind of they use the volume so effectively in the Mandalorian that it was like, I guess it was easier pill to swallow. And then you see it with like less deft hands with Boba Fett, and some of that stuff really looked like they were shooting in a hallway somewhere. Like it was just looked bad.
It looked rough. So I mean, I think there's a fine line to use it, but still be on location and make everything still look right. And I
Yeah,
think they're right now they're still trying to figure out what that balance is.
yeah. So that's Prey. I know we wanted to talk about another alien species here, the Na'vi. I haven't seen the Avatar
Dude, you
sequel
have
yet.
not seen
I haven't gone to the theater at all.
a
Yeah.
$1.5 billion movie you have not seen yet? Oh man.
Did it meet your financial expectations?
Yes.
Yeah.
I won. I'll see. I had a little bet with Kyle from the My Drunken Movie Theater guys
Yeah.
on which movie would have the higher domestic um uh gross.
Right.
If it was going to be Wakanda Forever, if it was going to be Avatar. And Avatar is almost at 500 million gross here domestically, and Black
Yeah.
Panther was about 440. So I think Black Panther is now out of the theaters completely.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's on Disney Plus now, isn't it?
Or it's just
Or
getting
it's
ready to be
getting close
released.
to.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
getting close. So I mean, Avatar. I mean, really, Avatar does great state-wise. I mean, 500 is nothing to be sneezed at. A billion worldwide, that's where they make their money in Avatar.
Right. Right.
So with it being 1.5 and it's still going, I mean, even this past Friday, it made 11 million.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, a lot of people are saying this may be a $2 billion, movie by when it's all said and done. And Cameron, I think he just pumps out $2 billion movies, but
He doesn't make them often, but
when
he
he
doesn't
makes
make
them,
movies, period. But when he does, yeah, they make some money.
it takes him 2 decades to put one out.
Right.
But yeah, no, this achieved what I thought it was going to achieve. I mean, money wise, I thought it was going to be big. I loved it. I've been wanting to see it a second time,
Yeah.
and I just haven't been able to chisel out the time to go see it in the theater again. I mean, it's a 3.5 hour movie. So I was going to take Zach again, but like one started at 4 and one started at 7. I'm like, I don't want to be at the theater until like 11 o'clock at night. I just didn't want to do it. So I'm not
Uh,
sure if I'll get a chance to see it again in the theater,
yeah.
but I want to see it again badly.
Yeah. My drive was just I didn't have the same drive that you did. I don't know what it was because I love James Cameron and Avatar. I guess I wasn't as big a fan of the original movie. Plus that runtime too. Like, look, even take a franchise movie that I love. Say if they made a Batman movie that was 3.5 hours long, I could still be like, that's too long. If they put a Star Wars movie out that was 3.5 hours long, I'd still be like, man, I don't know. I'll probably see it because it's Star Wars, but do I really want to sit in the theater and make this like a 5-hour experience by the time I got to drive there, get there early, get the popcorn, sit there, watch through credits. Then by the time I'm home, it's like 5 hours later. Like that's I guess the older I get, the more that's just like, man, I don't want to do that.
Now, on the positive side, though, yeah, it was 3 hours and 20 minutes. And this is probably the best thing I can say about the movie. I didn't feel the time.
Mm.
Like, I did not feel the runtime. And I always get a large drink. I actually got a hot dog this time. Zach got a popcorn. And the funny thing is, we went with my mother in law, and he almost spilled half the popcorn on her. We sat down, and our theater, when it comes to the IMAX theaters, they're garbage. The seating's garbage. Everything
Yeah,
else is great. The seating is garbage. So they want to pack as many people in there as they can. So you're not in the comfy chairs, the recliners, the
yeah,
tables, everything. It's just your sardines in these. And this theater was sold out, which was fun because you get that sold out theater experience, which it's hard to come by right now.
yeah.
But and I didn't even get up once to use the restroom during this whole time. So it's like I was locked in this movie completely. What in the Sam hell?
Well, that's good. What?
My computer just went weird on me. There we go.
Oh, well, I
Okay,
still
I'm
see
good.
you in here. Yeah, we're good. Um, yeah, well, that's good. I mean, that is saying something for the runtime to be that long and for you to not feel it. I mean, I'm curious about the story itself. Like, do you think the story was as good or not as good or better than the
It
first?
was better.
Okay.
It went from how the first one was, Sully was basically leaving human race to become a part of the Navi.
Yeah.
People were like, why are you yeah, people just didn't feel that. People that didn't like it didn't feel that storyline.
Right.
And then they also had the unobtainium that they were trying to get. They completely booted on the unobtainium.
Yeah.
I mean, they mentioned that maybe one time in the whole movie. And
Right.
now basically this one was they're leaving Earth, they're terraforming this planet, and they have to eliminate the actual hostiles. And that was the idea behind this one here
Yeah.
on that side of it. The other side was all family, and that's why I love this one. It was Jake, it was Natiri, and their kids,
Mm-hmm.
and it was them surviving. And when basically when the humans came back, they realized they had to leave their tribe to protect their tribe because they
Mm.
realized they were hunting them.
Mm-hmm.
So when they left, and then the whole movie is about the way of water. They joined another tribe that's water based, and then you see them becoming family with them. Their family dynamic getting more and more because there's a scene, and a little bit of a spoiler alert here, but there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where Jake, his kids, and everyone are attacking a train that the humans put up, and they're stealing weapons and everything so they can go ahead and fight back rather than fighting with spears.
Mhm.
One of his kids get caught in a bad spot, and he's the general of this army now, and he gets him back and he rips him. He rips into this kid like nothing, and then Natiri's like, "You're too hard on him." And then all of a sudden you see the general drop and dad come up, and he's like, "I almost lost him."
Mm.
So just those family things, the dynamics between father and son, how he's harder on his oldest his I think it's his youngest son over his oldest son,
Yeah.
and it's just like he's trying to have him survive, but then there's that father son dynamic that's happening as well. It
Right.
was, I mean, it's leaps better story wise than the first one, and I would say if you didn't like the first one, there's some they rehash a few things in this one from the first
Yeah.
one. But story, I would say absolutely give it a chance.
Um, what's another question? And I probably already know the answer to this. Like, I'm of two minds where it's like I know it's a visual spectacle, so I want to see it in the theater, but it's also, almost 4 hours, so that's what's keeping me away from the theater. I'm asking somebody who's pretty biased, so I don't know if I should be asking you whether or not I should go see it. But that is one thing that I will say that's like I don't, if this wasn't as visually striking as that it looks like it is, then I would just wait for it and watch it here at the house. Wait for it to come on streaming or whatever. But because it's, it seems to be a big theatrical going experience, and I do miss that. Like that used to be, several times in the summer where you'd have that, and a couple times in the winter. But now, these days, it's a little bit fewer and farther between. I do want to see it. It's just finding the time. Once again, it's like getting out there, and that's what's keeping you from seeing a second time.
Yeah,
you know?
honestly, yeah. No, and I would absolutely say see it once in IMAX 3D if you can. Really, the the water part of it, it feels like you're in the water.
Yeah.
That part is phenomenal. The 3D when he's like on the land back, where he came from, it's it looks cool, but it's what you expect from an
Hmm.
Avatar movie. You know what I mean? There's a level of expectations when it comes to James Cameron 3D Avatar.
Did you see it in 3D?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've seen an IMAX 3D.
Okay.
Uh the water portion, that was by far the best part when they're in the water when it comes to the 3D.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you get a chance to see it, I would say 3D, IMAX, but some people have a hard time with the 3D glasses and
That's
really the
another
spec.
thing too. These technologies, 3D technology and VR headsets, it's like you're keeping a huge portion of the population that has to wear glasses to correct their vision every day from like experiencing this stuff. There's got to be a way to make that stuff comfortable for people that have to,
I'm waiting for some type
wear
of
this stuff.
clip-on thing. You know how they've got clip-on sunglasses for people who wear glasses?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for some type of, when you walk up and you have your glasses, for like people that don't have glasses, there's an option to go ahead and like clip on top and it flips down
Yeah.
to be able to give you that same comfortable, experience that say I would have.
Yeah, I don't want to have to wear glasses over my glasses. That's another thing.
Yeah, Zach struggled with that as well. 'Cause like after a little while, his ears started bothering him, the side of his
Yeah.
head started bothering him, type thing. So I can see that. Let's
So
see what's another one here. Oh, Puss in Boots. Have
oh,
you
yeah.
seen? Did you see Puss in Boots?
Do you think I went to go see
That's a
Puss
stupid.
in
That's a
Boots
very stupid question. You
and not
first of all, you
Avatar?
said you haven't been to the theater, and second of all, you're not. I that okay. Well,
I'm aware of Puss in Boots. I'm aware of it.
that movie was fun. It,
Yeah.
it, it was. It wasn't even a movie that we actually anticipated seeing. Like I took the kids to see a movie. I don't even know what the movie was anymore, and they're watching. Oh, it was the new Disney one that didn't do very well, Strange Worlds.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And they seen the trailer, like, oh, they're laughing at the trailer. I'm like, okay. And then I noticed the next day, my theater was doing a special screening one time for one showing. I was like, what the crap? Let's go back. So I took the kids right back, and they were dying. This movie is so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, if you love the Shrek world, And I'm not a big Puss in Boots fan. Like I didn't love him in the Shrek movies. I didn't see his first movie, or if I did, I don't remember it, which is telling.
Right.
This one here was fun. The kids were laughing the whole time. There's a Florence Pugh plays Goldilocks, and
Uh-huh.
she's got the three bears with her, and I think she stole the movie. Every time that they're in a scene, it's fantastic. There's a big bad wolf hunting actual Puss in Boots because he's on his last life,
Right.
and he's like, you know what, I'm finally going to get you. The whole movie is a ton of fun.
I did hear that. I heard that, Puss in Boots was kind of a surprise, big hit over the holidays, like, as far as, because every now and then it's touch and go as far as when you take your kids to the theater to see a kids movie or whatever, like, there's a lot of times where it's just like, you're just like, come on." It sounds like Puss in Boots wasn't like that.
Yeah, no, this was a hit, and it didn't run too long. You didn't feel the time. I mean, it was an hour and 40 minutes, so it's just a little over an hour and a half, which felt fine. I mean, the only thing I would say is these theaters got to cut down on their previews. 30 minutes,
Oh my
35 minutes of
gosh,
previews
yeah.
has to come to an end. That's just it's too much. Even my kids were like, "Dad, when's the movie gonna start?" I was like, 15 minutes.
Oh, and generations these days that aren't even used to watching, like, commercials, like, I mean, every with so much, like, streaming and stuff, like, my daughter, when we actually have live TV on, and she's like she calls them ads, she's like, "Why are there so many ads?" Because that's what YouTube calls them,
Yeah.
ad reels, and, she doesn't even say the word commercial, but it's still like, "I'm sorry, hon, this is the way live TV works, you have to sit through these every 20
You
minutes,"
can't skip them in 10 seconds.
No. So yeah, like, and for that, in a world that is like increasingly, less willing to sit through a commercial, for you to show, sometimes like 12, 15 trailers before you're like, it's just like, it's
Oh,
crazy.
dude, before Avatar, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Before Avatar, it was bad. Now we got a really cool clip of them making the scene in Mission Impossible
Hmm.
where the Tom Cruise is on the dirt bike on the motorcycle and he's jumping off the cliff,
Right.
and they show the whole behind the scenes shooting of that.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But everything else on top of it, I mean, I think it just got obnoxious after a certain point.
And when we were kids, like, seeing the trailers that would be tied to a movie before the movie start,
It
that
was
used to be like,
special.
yeah, you didn't wanna miss it because it was like it would only be, like, 3 or 4, maybe 5 at most, and they'd be things and we didn't have, like, websites that would, like, premiere it, like, the day of or, like, the day before even, like, where you can
Yeah.
just hop on and watch
You
a
got
trailer on the internet.
you got the Super Bowl,
Mhm.
which you'll get movie previews during. And when it came to like TV, that was the big day. That's when
Yeah.
you got your big movie like trailer previews.
Yeah.
We didn't have YouTube that we
Right.
like, oh, it dropped at like 9 o'clock this morning. Let's all go watch it.
Yeah.
Like I know Monday night there's going to be an Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania trailer drop during the national championship game.
Mm.
So they're still kind of doing it. But my thinking is, I bet you it's going to be released on YouTube before the
Oh,
game.
absolutely. Yeah.
So we'll be able to access it before before that happens. But yeah, I mean when they were special, when it was
Right.
like you couldn't get them at any other time and you had to see them in the theater,
Yeah.
that's when it was a spectacle. Now
Lit
it's like I
Literally
don't
a
care.
half hour. Yeah, half hour trailers. By the time the actual movie starts and they're starting to show, like, the opening credits for the movie that you came to see, it's usually, like, a half hour after the time slot that bought the ticket for.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
and they wonder why they can't fit so many showings in. Well, you shave off 30 minutes of
Right.
every showing. Yet, I mean, 3 showings, you probably have a whole nother runtime.
Yeah. This
But
show
yeah,
our show, the Dadnarok After Show is gonna be increasingly just you and I yelling at the clouds, I think.
As we get older, we're both in our 40s now, so we're getting older
Yeah.
and grumpier.
Yep.
But yeah, Puss in Boots, dude. I mean, you can actually, I think it actually went to digital yesterday,
Oh, okay.
so it's something that you can go ahead and see. It's not going to cost much. It's not a huge time commitment, like we were saying Avatar was. This, like I said, probably with you know credits run, it's probably about an hour and 30 minutes. So I
Excellent.
mean, the runtime is perfect for it. The characters are fun. You bought into it. The idea behind it, like I said, Goldilocks and the Three Bears are the star of the show, even though it's a Puss in Boots movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have Jack Horner in it. There's a lot of things in it that they didn't show in the trailer, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. Um, Anything else that you can remember
I
watching besides
mean,
Christmas movies? I mean, of course, I saw a bunch of those, but
did you watch the new one? Did you watch Spirited?
no, did not watch the new one. Nope.
Dude, that is so fun. It is so good. Like I'm not a Will Ferrell guy, and I love that movie. That
How do you
movie
feel about
what
Elf?
I'm we watch it, but I'm on the fence with it. I mean, I don't dislike it. Like
Yeah,
I dislike a lot of his movies. My brother, I thought Brandon was going to disown me this Christmas because
right.
I don't like Step Brothers.
Uh,
I don't like Talladega Nights.
yeah,
I don't like any of these movies that he's in. I just don't like. I don't find his humor funny.
right.
It's just not my thing. Which some people would love it, but when it came to Spirited, now it may have been him playing off of Ryan Reynolds
Yeah.
and it being Charles Dickens.
Christmas Carol.
Thank you. It just worked, and it was a different type of telling of the story. Like you love Scrooged,
Mhm.
so if you love Scrooge, I think you'll enjoy this. But it's also I I, I preface it like this: it's also a musical. There's a lot of
Ah,
singing, a lot of dancing
yeah,
with all of it. So it's either you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. And it just kind of fell in my wheelhouse for some reason. It was one we put on just because we were bored. It's like let's try this.
mhm,
And at the first like 15 to 20 minutes I'm watching it, I'm like, what the hell am I watching?
yeah,
But it was like you were intrigued. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna shut this off because I don't know what I'm watching. It was
right.
that intriguing. What the hell am I watching?
Yeah, that's the good kind. Well, the good thing is I'm sure it'll be around. The good thing with Christmas movies, they just come back every year.
Oh
There'll
yeah,
be
they're like
another
boomerangs. They
opportunity.
never go
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, I mean, we're still watching ones from, 40, 50 years ago, they still come up and like, "Oh, it's Christmas time, time to watch that." One new one that came out this year that I did watch, and I know you watched too, we mentioned on it on our last time that we were on the air was, A Christmas Story Christmas, that I thought was just, like, done really, really well.
Yes, I was
Uh,
scared of it because
yeah,
I'm such a staunch believer and loving of the first movie, just
yeah.
yeah, A Christmas Story.
Mhm.
So when they make a second one, it's always scary. It's like, is this necessary? Is it going to be any good? And yeah,
Yeah, and a lot of they've had sequels kind of because it's weird because it's like the original Christmas Story is based off like either a book or a short story by this guy, and this guy, the Christmas Story was just one. Like he used to write about his experience as a kid during like summer vacation and like going on like he had all kinds of stuff with the old man and his family and Ralphie and A Christmas Story is the one that just really hit as far
yeah,
as like and so they've had other movies based on some of his other writings. They've had other movies that are called like A Christmas Story too, where it's like Ralphie and stuff, and it's a different Christmas, but they're played by different actors. And it just didn't, none of them hit because none of them could capture that same
the same magic.
feeling that the first one did. But this one, I think this one captured the magic. I mean, it helped that you had the same actor. I think that really helped.
Oh, a lot of, I
Um,
mean, the majority of the actors came back for
y-
this. There was a
yeah,
lot of the original cast came back for this. I mean,
yeah,
even like we said, even one of the elves that
right.
was at
At the mall or
yeah,
the department
at the
store.
store.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the store real quick. But
yeah.
even that one was the same. So it was fun. So yeah, you're right. When these movies come out, they're always a good time. But I think we're burying the lead here. There was a Star Wars show that just started up on us.
Oh yeah,
And
you need to talk about it.
we need to talk about Bad Batch season 2. No, so let's just do this here. Let's go ahead and run a quick clip and then we'll kind of talk about it right when it's finished here. So let's just go ahead and give it a shot here.
That's not the kind of life this kid deserves. Our lives are like this because of Omega. And forget about the war chest. It's not important.
Yes, it is. I heard what you said to Hunter on the Marauder. You don't have a normal life because of me.
We made the right choice, Omega. I'd do it all again.
Poor Omega.
I didn't realize she was such a they well Echo at least looks down on well at the first two episodes it kind of looks like Echo's looking down at their choice
Right.
of how they're handling what they're doing with Omega.
Yeah, it's funny in those first two episodes, which are kind of like almost a part one, part two, because they're in the same conflict. It's not, they're kind of in the same planet, same story. It's like they get themselves in a situation in episode one and them getting out of that situation is episode two. and it's interesting because I think Echo is looking at big picture stuff, while Hunter is just about staying off the radar, keeping Omega safe, finding a way to scrape by, surviving. Echo's thinking rebellion terms. Echo's thinking like we need to find others that are like minded. We need to
Yeah.
join up.
Other people are fighting.
Um,
We can be doing more.
yeah. So I think that's an interesting dynamic to have, within the team, those kind of differing priorities. How'd you feel about these first couple episodes?
Honestly, I feel. I mean, it looks great. This show always looks great
Yeah.
visually, but I think it's about the same. I mean, I don't. These two episodes didn't move the dial for me like the other season did. I kind of went into it thinking, okay, let's just see what it does because it's Star Wars. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
But is it going to move me in any way? And there was a lot of cool Easter eggs from Dooku's, palace to
Mhm.
seeing the tanks from the separatists
Yeah.
to the troop transports coming in at the end of episode 2 that they
Right.
were firing on them on the edge. So there was a lot of really cool things that were there that I appreciated, that I knew. There was something that they pointed out, but in no canon or anything have they ever talked about.
What's that?
Why was Dooku's planet or town hit by an air barbarian? Yeah, when they shot him from the air,
Oh yeah.
because Dooku was killed. We all know who killed Dooku.
Yeah.
Why was his town shot by the Empire?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even, what they mentioned that in the show. I didn't even think about that. Why would they have done
It's the
that?
same way. It's the same exact thing they did to Camino, and that's how they explained it. But why was that done?
Maybe just to link any or destroy any kind of evidence of Palpatine's working while he was still, the Phantom Menace, or working as Sidious kind of behind the scenes. Maybe just like to cover that stuff up. Like he was for years and years, he's working as two entities. You know what I mean? Like there was the face, Senator Palpatine, and the guy that was rising up the ranks of the Republic, and then there was the guy in the shadows, Darth Sidious, that was like making moves, through Christopher Lee's character Dooku, and like through Darth Maul, and like, and honestly, I mean, in the Clone Wars, he was, wasn't he trying to get rid of Darth Maul at some point, like kill Darth Maul? So that kind of fits the MO of him, like kind of like basically destroying everything that he was doing, like covering up his tracks almost. Now that like he has what he wants as Palpatine, as the Emperor, this overall ruler of the galaxy, like, I don't know, maybe it's just easier.
Do you
to
think
clean
it
up
took
your
place
past.
after Dooku's death? Because if I wouldn't buy
I
the
think
fact that
so.
it would have been done while he was alive, because the
No.
Republic didn't act like that.
I think Dooku was probably the only thing keeping him and his what he owned safe. And once Dooku was gone, it was like, well, let's just burn that bridge or whatever. Let's cover our tracks. Essentially, that's what my speculation would be anyway.
Yeah, because they had Operation, was it Inferno?
Yeah.
That they went ahead and they were just torching planets once the Empire fell.
Right.
So it's not outside of the realm of them doing. It's just something that I call, it's like, okay, they never mentioned this. They never said there was any type of wiping out of Dooku's city.
Yeah.
But Dooku's castle survived.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just caught me like that's. I would like to know more about why that took place, or when it took place, or just that little bit.
And you know what? And the story of the Empire is one that it's like a story of like what the general public of the galaxy like believes too. Like it's kind of crazy because we know the movies, and like the rebels are the good guys and the Jedi are the good guys, and like we watch the movies, we know everything, we see all this behind the scenes stuff. But if you put yourself in the shoes of somebody that lives in the Star Wars galaxy, all you're seeing is Empire propaganda of like the Jedi betrayed us, they attacked me, they've scarred me. I'm the one leader that got you through the Clone Wars here in the Republic. Everybody kind of loves me and Palpatine. They put me in power, and I've been able to like guide the galaxy through. And now I've been victimized by these Jedi. So we need to go out and it's kind of like a continuation of that. It's like the story of the Empire is like, Palpatine's our great leader. We're behind him. Vader and the stormtroopers are keeping us safe. Like that's the front. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're about keeping the galaxy safe and putting everything in order. And on its surface, that's something that you could easily, buy. Like, oh, I mean, the Empire's here. Thank goodness because I live in a planet that's full of like crime and space pirates and like stuff like that. So like the space cops are going to come down and make sure that I'm safe as a
Yeah,
citizen.
with stability. Yeah.
Right. So like on the surface of it, that's an easy pill to swallow. But it's like, but we know the true intentions. We know the guy at the head of the thing is this like truly evil dude.
Well, we also know like the Sith and the Jedi are something that most people within this galaxy don't really know. They know of them almost
Yeah.
as myths and
Right.
legends.
Yeah.
So when they see the Empire come in and they see a Star Destroyer come in and they see stormtroopers, there's something tangible to what they know. They
Yeah.
see it. They see them coming in. They see them cleaning things up until they see things go sideways.
Right.
And most planets see things go sideways when the Empire is involved in some manner. I mean, just like that one guy in this episode where he's like, I escaped. I live out here because, we're survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know truly what he's doing out there. But what's going to happen now that they know there's more people on the outskirts of this town? Is the Empire going to try to, come ahead and clear that out? I mean, we're probably going to move on from the story.
Probably, yeah.
But I mean, there's those little things like you're saying that it would always be fun to know a little bit more. And that's why I liked the book. It was, man, like it was a book that's basically out there about other people's perspective.
Oh, Lost Stars?
No, Lost Stars is fun. That's a good example. But this is like a whole other book where it's about just the original Star Wars movie. And you're getting the perspective of like the bartender.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking
in the
about,
cantina where the whole thing went down with Guido and Han.
Yeah.
So just hearing those other stories on what these other people believe and what they see and their ideas of what's going on, it's fun in that world because that world is so big.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how we're exploring some of these other things right now.
So I think I'm a little more positive on Bad Batch as an idea and as a show than you are. But see, I didn't have the experience of like loving the Clone Wars. Like what I've seen of the Clone Wars, I love. Don't get me wrong, but it's like the Clone Wars you hold in like high regard as one of your top shelf Star Wars properties. And like I don't have that same love. Like I enjoyed Rebels and I liked Clone Wars season 7. And I compare, like, to me it's comparable like Bad Batch as far as just like it's all extra story. It's like icing on the cake. It's like the animated stuff is like icing on the cake. Where I think you hold the Clone Wars in kind of a higher regard, so it's easier for me to enjoy the Bad Batch a little easier maybe. And then I was a fan even from like the premise, like, hey, like I loved the A-Team as a kid, so like, yeah, let's get a
Well, the idea I was behind.
Yeah.
I was really behind him between the last season of Clone Wars and then going into the Bad Batch. I was pumped for it. It's like, this is the idea that I'm all for. I want to see this.
Yeah.
And for me, it just hasn't quite landed. It's there. It's not bad, but it's not like I don't revisit it.
Yeah, and I'm curious to if the Bad Batch is going to connect to larger thing, because when we had Rebels, those first couple seasons were kind of like their own separate story, and then towards the end, Rebels really connected to larger Star Wars things going around. Like by the time Ezra was like in the timey-wimey stuff with the Emperor after him, so like it really got stuff that was like,
well, as soon as Maul actually started playing an appearance within it.
Right.
I mean, we seen Maul, we started seeing Ahsoka, we started seeing Senator Organa.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like connecting threads to it.
So I'm curious if their plan for Bad Batch is to eventually like connect with some of these larger ongoing things, like especially over the time, with like Andor and the formation of the rebellion and stuff, or if Bad Batch is just kind of, it'll constantly just kind of be on the fringes, almost like the outside looking in.
That would be interesting. I would like to see them connected in some manner to Andor.
Yeah.
Not directly connected,
but some of the characters like Skarsgård, his character.
They've always mentioned there's other factions. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
So if there's some connected, we don't have to see them any of these other connections, but maybe a name drop. We're doing this, or we heard this is happening over here on this planet. There's this big, basically bank heist that took place on this planet.
Yeah.
things that they hear about what's happening on Andor's home planet, just things like that where they see other things are happening and then they feel the need to go ahead and pursue more.
I think Bad Batch would benefit from time skips between seasons. And now doesn't maybe only like a year or two have passed in season 1 into season 2, it feels like. I think they should just go for it in like maybe 10-year skips, or like 5 or 10-year skips. Like see Omega grow up to
Yeah.
a point. I think that would be cool because then you can kind of skip along this whole 20-year time period between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, where that's, we're kind of in that time period, but like instead of staying in a singular spot where you're close to Order 66, really jump around in time and see how events like progress. I think that would be cool for the Bad Batch, but I
Now
don't know if
here's
they
a
want to do
question
that.
for you. Do you think we'll see that character that Wanda Sykes voiced again? Is that going to be a prominent character this season?
Yeah, they introduced her, and then she did nothing. And Wanda Sykes is that's a very unique character model. And Wanda Sykes as an and as an actor, and maybe doing a voice actor thing. I don't think you introduce a character like that for just to be in that one
Just
weird
a
scene.
one-off, just to
Yeah,
tell him where the war chest was located.
yeah. I think that'll come up again.
I was like, I was curious. I mean, how much longer are we going to have that other character, which has been bankrolling everything for them?
Right.
So we'll see where it all goes. I mean, I'm in. I'm going to watch. I enjoy it. But you're right. When it comes to like the animated stuff, it's on the bottom end of the animated stuff for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think Rebels may have jumped Clone Wars for me, but just barely. So I think
really?
for me, for me, it goes Rebels, Clone Wars, and then like we're talking Bad Batch down there. But
well, what's interesting too is that how Ahsoka is feels like it's almost gonna be a sequel to Rebels. It might make the stuff that was in Rebels even more important going forward with the stories that we have yet to see. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a direct sequel.
Yeah.
I mean, they may as well call Ahsoka a Rebel story or
Return of the
something like
Rebels,
that.
yeah, or something. Yeah.
Add Rebels in the actual title in some manner.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're getting Ezra, we're getting Sabine, we're getting all those characters, all the characters that we know
getting
from
Hera.
Rebels. And yeah, Hera. Are we gonna get Hera's son?
Oh, I think you have to. Yeah.
Is he gonna be a part of it? I mean, they show him flying with her in the Ghost,
right,
at the end of this, end of the final season.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ties, and I mean, I am really anticipating seeing Thrawn. I am terrified to see what they do with Thrawn in live action. Yeah, okay. I'm such a Star Wars dude. I mean, I'm scared.
Is there? This is dangerous territory. Starting to talk about Thrawn, but you brought him up. Is there a story end to Thrawn that you would feel is worthy of the character and satisfying, or like, because I've mentioned them killing off Thrawn, you're like, oh no, they can't do that. They're not going to kill off Thrawn. But it's like, is there can you conceive a storyline in your mind that would be a worthy ending to that character?
I mean, that's a deeper. Honestly, it's a deeper question. Like, I don't know off the top of my head if I can see there being a satisfying ending that I can come up with real quick.
Yeah,
just because he goes toe to. The only people that could really it would be Vader or it'd be Palpatine. But he's basically Palpatine's second. Vader hates it.
Yeah.
But he's basically Palpatine's second. And he goes toe to toe with Vader. And Vader knows he can't touch him because of Palpatine. So unless it was one of those things that there was another, like for instance, if it was, let's say, Maul.
Yeah.
If it was Maul and Savage who took him out before, I mean, I don't know if I don't think the timeline stacks up.
Right.
Before, Palpatine comes out and takes out Savage in Clone Wars. I don't know. It would have to be something like that. I don't think in a military fighting aspect, if they do him correctly, he would be outflanked and outsmarted.
Well, let's remember the timeline of this Ahsoka show. It's going to take place. I mean, if it's post Rebels, then that's post Return of the Jedi. That's Palpatine's dead and gone. Vader's dead and gone. So whenever we come back from the space whales thing, wherever Ezra and Thrawn disappeared to, it's going to be even post Mandalorian. It's going to be like current day what we're going through as far as like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, like this 5 to 7 to 10 years post Return of the Jedi.
Now this, like you said, this is dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in the galaxy that we know will take him out. There's so much political intrigue
Yeah.
when it comes to the Chiss ascendancy.
Yeah.
There's been many levels of the Chiss that wanted to take him out because of things he's done outside of their rules, but they haven't been successful because how successful he's been. I think it would be something political within the Chiss ascendancy that would wind up taking him down.
Could Thrawn have taken out Palpatine?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
You speak so highly of Thrawn. I'm
No,
curious
but
where
because
that
I mean,
line
Palpatine
is.
does have the dark side on his side. He
Yeah.
has those abilities.
Yeah.
Thrawn is just a brilliant military mind.
Yeah.
He has zero like personable skills.
Right.
Like there's people that actually go on his side to help him through like political situations because he has no idea what he's doing within politics.
Yeah.
He's such, I mean, they call him stupid when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But when you put him in a ship and you put him, you say, analyze this battle scenario, he'll come up with a completely different way of winning, which will win so much quicker than your average general will.
Yeah.
And that's his strength. Palpatine's straightforward. He'll suck you in and just lightning bolt you and you're dead. So I don't think he would have been able to take out. Now, if it was wits, like one-on-one wits, I think Thrawn could beat him.
Yeah.
But I think Palpatine has always looked 3, 4, 5 steps down the road, along with the ability to use the dark side.
Right.
And I don't think he would be able to beat Palpatine.
All right, I'll have to cut our Thrawn conversation off because you could go another 20 minutes just talking about Thrawn.
Yeah, no, you knew what you were doing when you did it. You threw the line out there, and I bet.
All right, so that's the Bad Batch season 2. Jury's out with Chris so far, kind of taking an episode at a time, and and for me the same, honestly, because I could honestly sit through a 23-minute episode of Bad Batch and be like, okay, well that was kind of a waste of time. Sometimes episodes are more enjoyable than others. I definitely don't look forward to a new episode of the Bad Batch as much as I do like a new episode of the Mandalorian or something. So
yes,
it's definitely I know, yeah, which is coming, by the way. And speaking of which, as far as what's coming down the pipeline here for us, we're going to be covering The Last of Us on HBO and HBO Max coming up. That premieres this month. We'll be talking about that week to week. We will continue to talk about the Bad Batch. We won't lose track of that one like we did Willow. And beyond that, there's tons of other stuff coming down the line.
If there's a show you guys like,
yeah,
and you want us to cover, drop that in the comments. Yeah. Let us know. I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff out there that we're just maybe not aware of.
Yeah.
And just let us know what it is. If you want to hear us talk about it and you want to be a part of the show and comment live while we're going, go ahead and let us know what that is. And we're always willing to open up and kind of take a look at things. Some things are just out of our wheelhouse that we have really nothing extra to go ahead and add to. So we're a little hesitant sometimes on those type shows. But if it's something that we enjoy, everyone's enjoying watching, and there is an excitement about it, it's fun to share our excitement with you guys. So we love being interactive. So go ahead and just let us know.
Yeah, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, be sure to do that. And join us here next Sunday morning on the Dadnarok After Show as we continue to discuss the latest and greatest in TV, movies, and streaming.
Okay, guys. And so until we see you next week, we'll see you.
See you after the show.
There we go.